but disinterest leads to disruption. So now you're dealing with academics and attitudes. Goldilocks and the Three Bears really messed us up because they have us thinking that there's a just right approach. But in honesty, some people do like hard beds and some people like soft beds. Some people like hot porridge, some people like cold porridge. And too many educators try to find the just right approach for their class. All that's really doing is just appealing to one subset of students. And that's the only group that's gonna maximize their growth. And to make matters worse, not only will the other groups be left out academically, but disinterest leads to disruption. So now you're dealing with academics and attitudes. So the way that I made sure that every student was challenged academically was by using a learning contract that I learned from reading the book Never Work Harder Than Your Students by Robin Jackson. In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how to create your own learning contract. I'm gonna link a free PDF in the description below that gives you a template to create your own learning contract, and it's going to include some activities at various DOK levels to really address student learning needs. Let me show you why the learning contract works. In the book, it gave us an example, and let's say that the standard was that all students needed to jump over a 2-foot hurdle. Now, we're going to transition to an academic standard in a minute, but think about it from a physical standpoint right now. If the standard was that each student could jump over a 2-foot hurdle, how would you approach it? Some teachers responded by saying, I would put out the 2-foot hurdle and I would have students jump over it. And then students that could not jump over it, I would provide them support, or I'd give them a step stool to allow them to get over the 2-foot hurdle. And honestly, a lot of people use this approach. A lot of teachers use this approach, and it's not the most effective way to do it. Because if we lay out a 2-foot standard and say that everybody has to jump over this 2-foot hurdle, somebody's gonna get over that rather easily. Like somebody's gonna jump over that 2-foot hurdle with ease. Somebody's gonna struggle. Maybe they can jump 1 foot, 10 inches, and the more they stretch, the more they do some squats, they're gonna have to go ahead and get over it. So those students are gonna struggle and be intrinsically motivated, and they'll get over it. And then for our lower students that we wanna support, when we bring them a step stool, if they step on the 1-foot hurdle and then jump over, all they really did was jump 1 foot. So it looked like we were giving them support, but all we were really doing was lowering the expectation. In the book, it suggests that what we should do instead is, instead of having just a constant 2-foot threshold across the whole platform that we just ask all students to jump over, rather we can tether a rope 2 feet high and then stretch it diagonally across and tether it to the other side at 12 feet high or something of that nature. And then we ask students to jump over at the appropriate height. So for the students that could easily clear 2 feet, I would say, okay, scoot to the left a little bit and jump again. And scoot to the left a little bit and jump again. And we're continuing to encourage these students to be challenged at their level. 2 feet was easy for them. And what's happening is now we're asking them to jump higher and higher. Maybe they clear 5 feet, which based on the first approach, we would have never known because we just had them continue to jump over a 2-foot standard. For the students that struggle to jump over 2 feet, that are intrinsically motivated, they're gonna still have their opportunity to jump over the 2 feet. And once they clear it, they can start moving to the left. And they can start clearing 2.5, 3 feet. And for those students who are struggling who cannot get near the 2 feet at all, we can definitely continue to help support them, not necessarily by giving them a stepping stool that's gonna lower the expectations, but supporting them through training, through practice, through squats, through muscle development, whatever it is that we need to do to get them up over that 2 feet hurdle while the rest of the students are continuing to go as high as they can. What does this look like in the classroom? Learning contracts. I'm gonna show you an example of my learning contract that I use in my middle school math class. And again, linked in the description below will be a template that you can use to actually create your own learning contracts that will allow students to be challenged at their own level, which is the hardest thing to do. The hardest thing to do is to differentiate and make sure that each student is being challenged appropriately at their level, but it's also the most effective way to make sure that we are accelerating student growth and that nobody is getting left out, that nobody is being ignored, and that nobody is not becoming their best self. So in my learning contract, I had 3 different tiers. In tier 1, I labeled the C box. The C box was called this because by completing all the things in this box, you could leave the week with a C grade. Then there was the B box. You can leave with a B grade. And then the A box, if you completed everything on this sheet, including the things in this box, you would have an A for the week. Now, in order to complete what was in the second and third tiers, the B and the A box, you had to make sure that you completed what was in the C box first. How did I determine what goes in each box? In the C box, these are the things that I determined students needed to do in order to show mastery of the standard. Listen to me. Students have to show mastery of the standard in the C box. Yes, that's the first tier. That's the easiest thing because I wanted to make sure that the minimum requirement was the mastering of the standard. Does that make sense? The minimum requirement was a mastering of the standard. And then what came in the B box and what came in the A box, those things were now continuing to push you. Just remember, if we think about that rope, continue to push you to 4 feet, to 5 feet, to continue to push you higher. But the minimum expectation that I needed for all students this week was to show me that they mastered the standard. So in the B box, remember you had to do what was in the C box first, and then you can move into the B box. In the B box, now is when I introduce activities that are at a higher DOK level. So it's not just about remembering and recalling and understanding the information, but now I'm asking them to analyze the information, to apply it. I'm asking of them higher order thinking questions, and I'm introducing activities here that are gonna cause them to retain the information and to go deeper in that thing. And again, this is linked in the description below. And then in the A box, now I'm going to the highest DOK level, and I'm asking students to create something. Ultimately, what I wanted students to be able to do by the end of all this, if you completed everything, I knew that you can get an A this week if you understood it well enough to teach somebody else. And that's what you could prove to me in the A box. By doing everything in the C, you showed me that you can remember, you can recall, you can understand. By showing me what you can do in the B, that shows me that you can analyze and that you can apply. And transitioning down to A, you're now showing me that you understand it enough to create things on your own and you can teach somebody else. That's how you got an A for the week in my class. So I know you have a lot of questions. As a matter of fact, Pursue Excellence Moment, comment down below. Would you like me to dive deeper into the learning contract? Because it was extremely effective. It is what led to allow me to have the highest growth in the building and allow me to have the highest test scores in the building. And I fully believe that the reason why is because I was challenging each student independently. Now, it was not 100%. Math 1, we did have 100% proficiency, but it was not 100% in 8th grade math, but it was a lot better than anything else I've ever tried. So if you want more about it, let me know in the comment section down below. But I'll field a couple of questions that I typically get right here. So what about students that don't do what's in the C box? Well, I did not have a deadline. So that's making some people a little nervous. I didn't have a deadline because I don't believe there's a deadline on learning. It doesn't matter to me when you get it done. It just matters to me that you get it done and that you master it. So honestly, I did have to put a deadline on it at the end of the quarter because in Power School, I couldn't go back and affect grades from the quarter before. But if you didn't get it done at the end of the week, then next week it was right there waiting for you because I needed you to master the things that we are going over in class. And that's why it's called a contract. Students at the bottom, they had a signature line, and parents also had a signature line. And I was saying these are the things that the students need to do this week. Some parents would sign it, some parents wouldn't, but my goal was to make sure that everybody was aware. And for students that didn't get everything done throughout that week, that showed me that they didn't master the standards. And now as the teacher in that classroom, my goal was to make sure that I go back and in my small groups, in my tutoring, whatever it is, I'm working with these students to make sure that they can master the standards, at least do what's in the C box, because what's in the C box is mastering the standards. And for those students who had an IEP or who were getting pulled out by the EC department, I would give them over when they did their pull-out groups with their learning contract to say they need to master what's in the C. So again, it wasn't 100% everybody got it, but what this does is it helps us clarify who needs which support. And my goal is to make sure everybody's mastering the standards. That's what I'm doing as a teacher. I need to make sure that everybody is mastering the standards. The next question I get a lot is, what about the student that's just okay with the C? They don't want to try for the B. They don't want to try for the A. I'm going to ask that question back to you because remember, the C box is mastering the standards. So you're asking, what about the student that is just okay with mastering the standards? I would love for a student to be just okay with mastering the standards. And a matter of fact, I can think of a student specifically that was always content with just getting a C. And every single week, no matter how many conversations I had with him, I was like, you're so much greater than this. You can do more. You have so much potential. Don't just settle for a C. Try to get a B. He's like, nah, I'm cool. I'm just going for what's in the C box. And he would do what's in the C box. And in North Carolina, the EOGs or the end of grade assessments are rated on not proficient 3, 4, 5. This student has never achieved above a 3 before. And in my 8th grade math class, he got a 4. Why? Because every single week he got a C on my learning contract. Every single week he mastered the standards on my learning contract. He didn't want to go for a B. He didn't want to go for an A, no matter how much I tried to inspire and encourage him. But for the first time, he passed the EOG and he got a level 4. Because he was being challenged appropriately and he mastered the standards every single week. So again, I can go deeper. Let me know if you want me to do that by commenting in the comment section down below. In the next video, we're gonna talk about why we even test so much in the first place. Why do we test so much? We're gonna talk about that and also how to beat the system. So subscribe so that you don't miss that. But in the meantime, check out this video about how to quiet your noisy class and about how to push small groups even in a middle school classroom. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.